I'm sitting on the campus of Roberts Wesleyan College because I've been thinking quite a bit about the upcoming semester and what's going to happen on this campus. I read recently a column by Dr. Barry Corey about what's going to happen on his campus, Biola University, a university in Southern California. He wrote in a column about his hope that the students of his campus will see the constraints of the pandemic as a virtue and not as a curse. In his words, I want the rising generation of Christians to focus not on what they have lost, but on how much they've gained. Those words caused me pause. Focus not on what they have lost, but on what they have gained. That's an interesting way to think during this pandemic, isn't it? Not on what we've lost, but what we have gained. Dr. Corey then refers to a passage of Paul's in Romans chapter 5, where Paul says that we glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope. I don't naturally gravitate to that passage of Paul's. I like other things Paul says. I like what he says in Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that's at work within us. Now that's a passage I like. God can do more than I can imagine. Passage about suffering, perseverance, character, not so much. I've never been particularly fond of suffering. I don't know about you. A few weeks ago I had my first root canal. When I got in the chair, I told my dentist to use all the Novocaine he had in stock because I didn't want to feel a thing during the procedure. I want to avoid any pain or suffering. Which makes walking through a pandemic all the harder, doesn't it? If we don't embrace suffering, we can often complain about it. I just passed a house that had a sign out front advocating people not to pay their school taxes because evidently they're upset with how the school district is handling the pandemic. That's not the way we should be as Christians. Dr. Corey noted that throughout church history, Christians have risen to the challenge during times of suffering. He notes that in past pandemics, Christians have been among the first to attend to the sick. He also noticed that in times of economic hardship, Christians have been among the first to provide relief and feed the hungry. He notes that in time of bigotry, Christians have been the first to advocate for the equality of all people. Paul's words remind us in Romans that our worldview as believers enable us to talk about the virtues of perseverance in the midst of a pandemic. We know that God is Lord over all, even during COVID, and we trust in his gracious providence in our lives. So Dr. Corey encourages his students to embrace this moment as a time to move from suffering to hope as they return to campus this fall. I want to have that ability to move from suffering to perseverance, to character, to hope. Dr. Tom Long, a professor at Candler School of Theology at Emory University, once said this: people are looking for someone who in the midst of all the noise can stand calmly under the authority of the Spirit and tell the truth about something. There's quite a bit of noise going on. Plane flying overhead right now as an example. There's endless graphs of rising infection rates, dismal forecasts of what is to come in the months ahead. Even baseball games are once again put on hold. It's so easy, isn't it, to get caught up in the swirl and to bemoan our sufferings. What the world needs now are people who can, in the midst of all the noise, stand calmly. I don't need Novocaine. Although there are moments of weakness when I pine for a bit of numbing during all this. I need to recognize that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope. So how are you going to walk through this time? It's not going to end very soon. And what are people going to see in you? Will you grumble and sputter? Or will you stand calmly, filled with a hope that comes from the abiding presence of Jesus? Will you focus on self or focus on others? Will you count what you have lost or will you count how much you have gained? I'm Pastor Wally, and this is today's Daily